Every play's a statement, Coach Edd on the headset, leading like a champion. Games on blast, yeah, we talking all the scores. From the stands to the couch, it's college football wars. Tactical rise, rivals feel the pressure. Every snap, every pass, it's a teacher lecture. We breaking down the plays with rhythm and force. This podcast is the playbook, it's the main source. On the headset, we're calling the shots. Every team on the rise, giving all that we got. On the field, we hustle, every snap like it's gold. Highlight reels rolling, the stories unfold. Tailgates are packed, fans decked in their pride. On the headset, got the whole world on our side. From the kickoff to the final drive, Coach Edd's breaking down how we thrive. Every week, every game, we're turning the tide. On the headset, where the passion won't hide. Let's talk stats, let's break it down. Championship dreams, we're wearing that crown. From the big wins to the heartbreaking loss. On the headset, we're here, no matter the cost.
Salute. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tapping in today to another episode of Between the Hashmarks, episode 2 on the Aboriginal Sports Network. This is where I give you the review of the college football weekend. And there was a lot going on in week 1 of college football. So some things that we definitely want to get into and talk about and review. I'm also going to now introduce my college rankings. Now, I didn't do a preseason rankings because I like to see the games and at least get a little start just so I have a little valid reasonings for my rankings. So, but I'm going to introduce and bring it to you every week on on how I see how the teams are going to be ranked in the season. So really excited about this. You know, great 5 days of college football. Man, I just love it. Just love it. Sitting back, watching the games, covering or streaming watch-alongs, and giving you my reactions to several of the games. So not going to be able to cover every game, but here's some big ones. I'm going to talk about the major ones, some surprises along the way. So, but let's get into the kickoff recap for week 1. Now, this was a phenomenal kickoff to the college football season, where you had several games living up to the billing, while some others were surprising, with the final results and how, they went. So, but when you're seeing top-ranked teams going up against each other, it's always energizing, exciting, and a great way to always start your season. So, and like I said earlier, having the opportunity to sit back and watch college football over these 5 days, it's always special and a great way to, ignite a season. It really is. So, really enjoyed myself. Now, one of the most endearing and special moments of week 1 was the send-off for Lee Corso. Lee Corso has been a player, a coach at the college level for years, and been in television and a media personality for some time now. And he always made a special selection at the end of the college game day show. This is where he would take a headgear of whatever team he thought was going to win the big game and put it on. It could be a mascot face, it could be a helmet, it could be anything. A hat. It was always great to see, and a lot of times we always tuned in just to see who Corso was going to pick, to see if he was going to be right or if he was going to be wrong, but it was always special. He's been doing this for ESPN and College Game Day roughly it's been about 29 years. So, it's always special, seeing Coach Corso. And he made his final headgear selection before the big game between Texas and Ohio State, which were considered in the top 2 or 3 in some publications and rankings. So down in Corso fashion, he picked the same team that he picked the very first time that he made this initial selections 29 years ago. And that team was Ohio State. So that was something that was special. And, it's something that I appreciated as a college football fan week after week, year after year. So now the love and appreciation for Coach Corso was evident throughout the show, as many fans paid homage to Corso and thanked him for making the pregame pageantry special. Now, for me, I'd like to say thank you to Coach Corso for helping to keep college football informative, exciting, and fun. You gotta have fun to really enjoy something like this. So, you've also allowed me to continue to be that first year player eager to learn and grow in the game of football. And that I'm always going to be hold him in high regard. So thank you, Coach Corso. Wish you the best of luck going forward as you continue on in life. So now let's dive into the games. Now, some people have this game as having the biggest impact or whatever reason. For me, it's always going to be about top ranked teams. And when you're starting at Texas, which was ranked at number one in both the AP and the college coaching, basically Texas and Ohio State had to be that one for me. And Ohio State came away with the win 14-7. So I love this type of a game. It's more of a defensive minded type of a game, low scoring, but that's me. Now, some of the key particulars in terms of the quarterback play, Arch Manning for Texas was 17 of 30, 130 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Now, keep in mind, this is only his third start ever at the college level and the first one on the road. And going to Ohio State, playing in front of over 100,000, that's a big get. For Ohio State, first-time starter, Julian Sayin, was 13 of 20, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. Now, rushing, Texas had 37 carries, 166 yards, an average 4.5 yards per carry. Ohio State, 34 carries, 77 yards, and 2.3 average. So you would say Texas was more dominating in the run game, but that's also because I look at it as you're at a certain spot, usually between the 20s, where you can get a lot of your yardage. But when you get into the red zone, into the money situation, do you capitalize and cash in? Now, Ohio State's defense, they stopped Texas on 4th and goal twice. Once from inside the 1 yard line. So that's a big factor because it was they tried the quarterback sneak and Ohio stepped up and stopped him. Now it gave they gave Manning issues throughout most of the game, getting those critical stops whenever they needed. Sayins looked poised in his first career start, managing the offense and throwing a big 40-yard touchdown pass to Carnell Tate, extending the Buckeyes' lead at that time to 14-0. So Ohio State's defense was also led by former NFL head coach Matt Patricia. So, and he was playing some great games against Texas and their offense, because Texas does have a prolific offense. They definitely do. But one of the things I kept saying on the stream too is you're looking at the number 1 and number 2 defenses that were ranked last year. So this is starting to carry over, which is why you saw a low scoring game, but it was a defensive battle in most respects. Not a lot of scoring and defensive stops when it mattered the most. So that was the big game. I really enjoyed that game and I loved it. So there you have it. So moving on to the next big one, another game where you had 2 top-ranked teams in the top 10 going after each other. Clemson hosting LSU, and LSU came away with the win 17-10. Now I'm going to give you a little fun fact a little bit later, in reference to this, but it was another big game. You could say it's a defensive fight, because it wasn't a big, 40-30 or 40-39 type of a game, 17-10. That usually means it's about defense. Now, LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier was 28-38, 230 yards and 1 touchdown, while Clemson's quarterback Cade Klubnik was 19-38, 230 yards, no touchdowns and 1 interception. And many people have said these are probably 2 of the top talents coming out for next year's draft. So I wanted to see how the quarterback play played out. And you see Nussmeier, he was very efficient. Both had the same amount of yards, and the same amount of passes thrown, but the efficiency went to Nussmeier. In terms of rushing, LSU rushed 31 times for 108 yards for a 3.5-yard average, while Clemson was 20 carries for 31 yards, a 1.6 average. So their offense was stalled out, and the rushing game was very ineffective. LSU, like I said, their defense was dominant. You know, they limited Clemson to 261 total yards on offense. They harassed Klubnik and the Clemson offense, stopping them on fourth downs in critical situations. You know, this was a big win for Brian Kelly and also for LSU. For LSU, this win ended a 5-game losing streak in opening games. So, and for Kelly, you know, he hadn't fared well against Clemson. This was his second win in 5 tries, but you know, now he's starting to focus on trying to change the narrative and push this program to true championship contenders. So it was also a big win, you know, because this was a game that was on the road for LSU against the 4th-ranked team. Now, the fun fact I told you about earlier, this win gives LSU, in a sense, bragging rights. And this bragging rights is for 2 factors. One is the mascot name. Both teams are called Tigers. So LSU can say we are the real Tigers because we beat Clemson. It's also the stadium names. Both play in a stadium nicknamed Death Valley. So this is why this is big. It's a little fun fact for LSU because, you know, they won the naming rights for a year or until the next time they face each other, and because they won in Death Valley. So there you have it, another great game. So in an upset, you had Florida State hosting Alabama, and FSU, Florida State, came away with the win 31-17. And this win was in convincing fashion. Alabama came in ranked number 8 in the publications, and FSU wasn't ranked. I mean, last year, FSU finished the season 2-10. So this is a big win for them. Now, Alabama's quarterback, Ty Simpson, was 23 of 43, 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was good, but a lot of it is because he was playing from behind, so he had to throw more. Transfer quarterback Tommy Castellanos was 9 of 14, 152 yards, but he also rushed 16 times for 78 yards and 1 touchdown. You know, when we look at the rushing, Alabama, 29 carries, 74 yards for a 2.6 average, while Florida State rushed 49 times for 230 yards, which was a 4.7 average. So that's really where they won the game. And also it was in the trenches. I mean, they dominated the line of scrimmage. Florida State was extremely physical against Alabama. You know, Castellanos, he actually transferred to Florida State from Boston College. And he also made a pregame statement earlier in the week. He said that Alabama would not have Nick Saban on the sideline to save them, and that Alabama couldn't stop him. So those are big words for him to put out there. You know, this instilled a level of confidence throughout the whole program as the Florida State teams stepped up because they were ready to come out and back up their quarterback, and boy, did they. And Castellanos was a problem for Alabama all game long. So, you know, using this dominating attack and a stifling defense, they basically pummeled the Crimson Tide like no one's seen in a long, long time. So that was the upset, you know, because we didn't expect Florida State to play to that level and for Alabama to be made to look like they were not a championship caliber team. So there you have it. In the third top 10 matchups, you had Miami hosting Notre Dame. And this is an old rivalry. This goes back to the late 80s into the 90s. This was always a big game. You know, I used to watch it all the time, loved it. It was always pitted. Shout out to ESPN for their 30 for 30. It was always pitted. The Catholics versus the convicts. You know, Notre Dame, Catholic University, if you go there, it's pretty much clean and pristine. Miami, you know, during the early heydays, they came off planes wearing army fatigues, wearing sunglasses, and was focused on business. You know, coming out there and just dominating the teams that they lined up in front of them. They would tell you they're going to dominate you, and they would do it. And these two teams were always rivals, going back and forth, and there was always bad blood between the two programs. So this was a good one right here. So Notre Dame quarterback CJ Carr, he was 1930, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Miami quarterback, transfer quarterback from Georgia, Carson Beck, was 20 of 30, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he was very efficient in managing this offense. Rushing wise, Notre Dame, 28 carries, 93 yards, a 3.3 average per carry. And Miami rushed 38 times for 119 yards and a 3.1 average. Now, the Hurricanes played inspired and hungry to end the 8-year time frame of not beating a top 10 program. Now, as Beck performed well, the play of the year was made by receiver CJ Daniels, who made a spectacular one-handed catch for a touchdown. On the play, he went up, reached high over his head, grabbed the ball, brought it into himself. And you look at the play too, right behind him, the safety was right there anticipating the interception because he didn't feel he was going to make the catch. And Daniels caught the ball and just fell right into the end zone for an amazing touchdown catch. And I think that really helped take the level of excitement for Miami to another level. So, watching this game, it added so many great memories, for me watching this rivalry and loving college football, because this game and the different storylines that they present really draws you in and brings you in. And Miami Notre Dame is another one. You can look at the history and see the Tim Browns, the Ray Lewises, all the names of guys, Jerome Bettis, Michael Irvin. You just go back and you look, and the names that have come from these two storied programs that even have gone into the NFL and made a name for themselves started right here at this rivalry. So Miami, they were using their defense to win this game to close it out. So again, like I said, it was a close game. And when Miami got the lead, Notre Dame had the ball, and Miami just back-to-back sacks to crush the Fighting Irish's hopes of getting back into this game and winning it. So there you have it. That was a great, great game. So now another game that we got to talk about, because it brought a lot of intrigue, a lot of notoriety. It was North Carolina and Coach Bill Belichick, his first game as a head coach at the college level, hosting TCU, a team that played a few years ago for the national championship of college football. Didn't win it, but they played. TCU went down to Chapel Hill. And when I say they took it to North Carolina, they took it to North Carolina, coming away with the win, 48-14. And to be honest with you, it really wasn't even that close. Now, quarterback Josh Hoover for TCU played a great game. He was 27, 36, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. North Carolina's starting quarterback Gio Lopez was 4 of 10, 69 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. Now, he did get hurt in the game and was replaced by last year's starter, who ended up getting hurt to start the season, Max Johnson. Johnson finished 9 of 11, 103 yards, 1 touchdown for North Carolina. So during the stream, I was even saying Johnson might have just earned himself his position back. Now, you never want a guy to lose his job for an injury, but it just seemed like Johnson was a little bit more efficient. Now, some of it could be TCU was just playing a little bit off and backing off because they had the game in control. But the offense did seem, especially passing-wise, they did seem a lot different. Lopez is definitely shorter than Johnson. He's more elusive and more dynamic in the running game. But Johnson was poised in the pocket as a quarterback. Another factor is his dad is Brad Johnson, Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he has that pedigree behind him. So one of the things that TCU did to also dominate in this game was in the running game. They rushed 35 times for 258 yards, an average of 7.4 yards per carry. Carolina rushed 28 times for 50 yards, 1.8 yards per average. So not good at all. I mean, this game was all hyped up, and it led to a lot of excitement and intrigue into Belichick's first game as a college head coach. You had so many dignitaries there pre-game. I mean, Michael Jordan, Lawrence Taylor. I mean, Randy Moss was there. I mean, Mia Hamm. I mean, you go through it, and it was just so many big name sports personalities or sports people were there to see this game in person. And unfortunately, it didn't live up to the intrigue. You know, now for Carolina, after a great opening drive where they marched down in that first series for a touchdown, everything changed for them. Totally changed. The intrigue of Belichick and the mystique just quickly wore off, and TCU stepped up and just said, "Nah, it's not happening." And like I said, this became an old-fashioned butt whooping. Excuse my language, but that's the truth. One of the things TCU was stating after the game is, we felt disrespected because everything was about Carolina and no one talked about us because we are a good program. And that's fair. That's fair. I mean, because TCU dominated in all phases, offensively, defensively. Just read you a little bit of the stat. The defense even contributed to the scoring onslaught with an interception return for a touchdown and a sack fumble that was scooped up and returned for a scoring touchdown defensively. So the offensive output saw TCU produce 542 yards to North Carolina's 222 yards. Hoover led the TCU. He was very efficient and continued to help to put the offense in positions of success. Also offensively, Bavarian Barnes led the rushing attack with 113 yards on 11 carries and one touchdown. That one touchdown was a 75-yarder to actually start the second half. They got the kickoff, and first play, bam, there he goes, untouched, 75 yards. And from there, it was just a matter of how big the score for TCU would be in the end. So one of the storylines that I ended up learning after the game about Hoover is the kid was offered some money to transfer and go to Tennessee for, to play there. And he said, no, I'm staying at TCU. I'm staying here to be with my teammates and help this team. And this day and age of NIL and transfers, that's big. So kudos to him. You won over a lot of fans, Mr. Hoover, with that. And your play is definitely showed it. So I'm looking forward to see what he's going to do from here. So, and then the surprise of the day, weekend, you had number 25 Boise State traveling across the country, going down to South Florida to take on the UCF Bulls. And UCF came away with the win convincingly also, 34-7. I mean, this was the surprise of the weekend. Another surprise of the weekend is they steamrolled Boise. I mean, like I said, Boise came in number 25, coming off of a college football playoff run last year. I mean, and the Bulls, they weren't intimidated. They used some trickery to keep the Broncos off balance and capitalize on the mistakes that Boise provided to come away with this convincing win. So kudos to South Florida, and Boise pretty much has to win out for any chance of getting back into the playoff run. So we'll see how things go from there. So now I'm going to give you guys my rankings. Like I said, I wanted to introduce you guys to Coach Edd's top 25 rankings. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So coming in at number 25, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Definitely a team I'm going to be keeping my eye on, especially when they get into Big 12 play. Number 24, the Indiana Hoosiers. So the darlings from last year, finishing high in the Big Ten. Let's see if they can continue on. Coming in at number 23, the Auburn Tigers. They're definitely starting out very well, so we're going to see. 22, the Texas A&M Aggies. Consistent team. Have they turned the corner from the Jumbo Fisher era? We're going to see. 21, the Oklahoma Sooners. Their transition, like Texas, over to the SEC has been pretty smooth, and they're very competitive there in the SEC. Number 20, the SMU Mustangs. Another one that transitioned from one conference to another, and they're playing in the ACC, and they just continue to be the Pony Express. Those old heads know exactly what I'm talking about. 19 are the Utah Utes. Dominating, physical, really took it to UCLA this weekend, and their offensive line was just one of the big reasons. So 18, the Michigan Wolverines. Now, I know they have some controversy, but they had a freshman quarterback start, and they played to their potential. 17, those Florida State Seminoles, man. Unranked to start the season. Look where they are now. 16, the Tennessee Volunteers. They played Syracuse in Atlanta and pretty much controlled the game. Now, Syracuse did close it out, but TCU was pretty much in control for most of the game, even though Syracuse did close the gap on the score. 15 is Iowa State. After that big win over Kansas State in week 0, and then this week, a big convincing win. They're definitely a team that you're going to keep an eye on as you go along. 14 is Illinois. The Fighting Illini, they're a tough team. They take on the personality of their head coach, and they're one of those teams that could continue to move up the rankings, as the season goes along. 13 is Alabama. I know they were in the top 10 in most publications. For me, they're starting at 13 after that disappointing loss to Florida State. 12 is Florida, another SEC team that's out there just chomping away at the competition. 11, Arizona State, one of the top teams in the Big 12, made a run last year in the playoffs, and they're right there. 10 is Notre Dame. Tough loss, but they have the talent to rebound, and we're going to see. Number 9, South Carolina. Big win over Virginia Tech. They definitely came in and took it to Virginia Tech, and they came away with the win. 8 is Clemson. Tough loss to LSU, but, they weren't just blown out like other teams. So 7 is Texas. Good defense. They have a good defense. Need to refine some things on the offense, and I think they will rebound and be better. 6 is Oregon. Hey, what can you say about the Ducks, man? They're always flashy, and they play a great game. 5 is Miami. They got the big win over the Fighting Irish. So the U, are they back in true title contention? We'll see. 4, the Georgia Bulldogs. They're always going to be there. They always are. 3, LSU. That's it. They got the big win over Clemson. Clemson was 4 at the time. So, yeah, legitimate. Number 2, Penn State. Nittany Lions came out swinging right off the bat. Big win over Nevada. So, we're going to see as the season goes along. And number 1, Ohio State. Defending champs. Took on the preseason number 1. Beat them. Dominating fashion on the defensive side of the ball. So what can you say? So there you have it. That's my ranking. Make sure you guys let me know what you think. Where do you agree with me, disagree with me in my ranking? So, and as far as, the recap, let me know what you guys think, man. Like to hear. Also make sure you guys always tap in, hit the like button. Sub up to Coach Edd if you haven't already done so, and to the Aboriginal Sports Network and all the great content creators there, man. There's some great content creators who, will definitely bring you some fire content, man. We love doing this for everyone, and we love the support that you guys bring. So with that being said, going to be out of here. bringing you another episode next week of Between the Hashmarks. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. And until the another one, peace.
On the field we grind, every play's a statement. Coach Edd on the headset, leading like a champion. Games on blast, yeah we talking all the scores. From the stands to the couch, it's college football wars. Tactical rise, rivals feel the pressure. Every snap, every pass, it's a teacher lecture. We breaking down the plays with rhythm and force. This podcast is the playbook, it's the main source. On the headset, we're calling the shots. Every team on the rise, giving all that we got. On the field we hustle, every snap like it's gold. Highlight reels rolling, the stories unfold. Tailgates are packed, fans decked in their pride. On the headset, got the whole world on our side. From the kickoff to the final drop, Coach Edd's breaking down how we thrive. Every week, every game, we're turning the tide. On the headset, where the passion won't hide. Let's talk stats, let's break it down. Championship dreams, we're wearing that crown. From the big wins to the heartbreaking loss. On the headset, we're here, no matter the cost.